Welcome back to the podcast. It's the 10th of February, T-shirt Tuesday. I told you we'd be bringing them back. This is one of my faves. There you go. I'm wearing a little tweed today. It's a little chilly. You know, it's been a little chilly here in the Northeast. Unlike you folks in Florida and Arizona and California. Oh, Ken, it's 77 here. I'm wearing a sweater. Okay, good for you. But at least it's warmer than it has been. I think it's 32 today in Pennsylvania at the Ken Matthews Media Bunker, 1 hour northwest of Philadelphia, where 3 days ago, when I got up for work, it was 4 degrees. 4. You know, like on a golf course, 4. Well, no, actually, it's different. I don't golf. Anyway, so let's get to it. I'm prepping for today's show, as I always do. It's now Tuesday afternoon. I was prepping this morning, and I wanted to figure out the best way to share this with you without being angry about it, because I am very disgusted and disappointed and angry about it, and I predicted it. And there's nothing more frustrating than predicting something a year out, 2 years out, 3 years out, 4 years out, whatever it may be. Whether you predicted a Trump win, which I did, whether you predict the COVID vaccine being really bad, many people think it's a biological weapon. And then it comes true. It's like, I'd much rather predict. I would love to be able to predict something like you are going to win 50 grand cash in the lottery today. And then you do it. And then, oh my God, Ken's awesome. But unfortunately, that's not. Statistically, it's probably not going to happen. One thing I did predict a year ago, even before a year ago, long before people started calling me some of the names they call me, long before I got phone calls and threats regarding employment and other things, I predicted that if we keep going down this road and turning anti-Zionism or questioning Israel or protesting Gaza, if we keep turning it into hate speech and a crime, and we keep having the influence of the state of Israel pushing around our politicians, there's going to come a time, and I really saw this not only last year, but the year before. From South Dakota to Georgia, what I saw was anti-Semitic hate speech laws, which are actually anti-First Amendment. They're against free speech. And a lot of people didn't, I don't know, they're like, what are you doing, Ken? And I made it clear that free speech is for everyone. And freedom of religion is for everyone, according to our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence and our sovereignty. Now, in Israel, free speech is not for everyone. Just like gay marriage is not for everyone. There's certain things in certain countries but see, I'm America first. I'm not here to defend Israel's, if you want to call it a constitution, or Canada's way of life, or Australia. All I know, as someone who's been in talk radio and been extremely honest and well-researched and ethical for decades, what I see is we are losing the Bill of Rights, piece by piece. So this morning, when I was prepping, I continued to watch. I started watching it earlier this week. It's Tuesday now, but started yesterday, I believe. The White House's Religious Liberty Commission. And I was going to go on last week, and I was going to predict, I was going to predict where this would go. But if I did it last week, it would have sounded anti-something. So I waited. I waited until this morning, and it went exactly where I was going to predict. But to predict it last week, you guys would have thought, okay, here he goes again. He's picking on Israel. Okay? And the worst are Christian Zionists. They're the whiniest about this because they, I think, have been indoctrinated the hardest on what you and I are supposed to swallow and the garbage we're supposed to eat to substantiate the state of Israel, a foreign nation, regardless of ideological preferences or religion. But the Christian Zionists are the worst because it's the Christian evangelicals that get the most money from the Israeli lobby. That explains all those trips to Israel, the pastors and, Mike Huckabee and Teddy Cruz and the rest, okay? So I'm just going to show it to you now so you see it. So this is a clip from the White House's Religious Liberty Commission. And I could have told you last week, what do you think that's all about? Do you think it means more religious liberty for us if you're a Christian, or us if you're a practicing Jew, or whatever you may be, Lutheran, Muslim, whatever you may be? Do you think? No. The White House's Religious Liberty Commission was set up to take away the rest of the speech from the rest of the religions and to make Zionism, which is not a religion, it's a political movement, much like supremacy. Call it Jewish supremacy if you'd like. Look it up, do the research. I'm tired of dancing around this ridiculousness, okay? I'm trying to inform people on what's happening before our very eyes, and I told you this would happen, and people got so angry. And I said a year and a half ago, I said, there's a better chance of losing our speech under a MAGA administration or Trump or a conservative administration than there is under Biden's administration. It'll start under Obama and Bush and Biden and Clinton. But mark my words, it's going to take more people to be convinced that it's the right thing to do. And now, unfortunately, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Christians and conservatives think that this is the right thing to do, to take away your free speech because the Bible told you so. Even though the Bible didn't say that, it doesn't matter. Ted Cruz said it. So here we are. So I'll start with this clip, and we can just ponder how far we've come in losing our free speech rights. This is the White House's Religious Liberty Commission. This is Carrie Prejean Bowler, and she is asking, ironically, a group of Zionist rabbis about, will Americans still have the ability to criticize the state of Israel? Or what is that? I mean, what exactly are you saying here? And then it was explained.
What I'll say is that Natan Sharansky says there's three things that you shouldn't do with Israel. You shouldn't delegitimize it, you shouldn't demonize it, and you shouldn't apply a double standard. You can abide by those three things, you're not anti-Semitic.
I told you a year ago. I said in a year from now, if Trump stays on this track, we're going to have Zionists, which are Jewish supremacists, by the way. Yeah, just like a white supremacist, except they're Jewish supremacists. They'll be telling you and I how we can speak about them, even though we're not breaking any laws. I told you this. And the hate mail and the foolishness I received. I said, you don't understand. It doesn't matter who's in power. It matters if they are respecting the Constitution of the United States. Now, real conservatives and real representatives should have told this nitwit, that isn't how it works here, sir. If we want to speak about your country existing or our country existing or Have you ever heard some of the leftist, angry liberal rhetoric in colleges that attack the American colonies and the American founding fathers? That's free speech. Am I for it? No. I mean, I'm for free speech, but you're not going to hear me ripping George Washington a new one. But that's allowed. But I told you a year ago, this anti-Semitism con, much like the BLM con and the homophobic con, is going to go so far that you're going to see Zionist rabbis hanging out in the White House basically saying, look, you better not do this or else. And 37 states have already done some form of this. 37 states in the United States have said, whoa, you said what about Israel? I'm going to have to report you. Here we are. Let's listen more to your new directive from the supposedly free speech White House.
So by not being a Zionist, does that make you an anti-Semite?
I don't think you need to be a Zionist to support a country that defends itself and is free and religious in a hostile neighborhood.
So is anti-Zionism
Hold on
anti-Semitism?
one second, Karen.
Yes.
It is. It is.
Sorry.
Yes.
Now, really quick, and then I'm going to let it play. I'll let it finish. But I did want to point out to you that it was an American, I believe, representative or governor, someone on the commission, probably a very holy Christian family person, because that's pretty much who rallies around what's happening in Gaza. That's who rally around Zionists now. That's who attacks anybody in the United States that questions what's happening in Gaza, or even questions why Bibi's here again this week. He's here again this week, by the way. He must need more money, or maybe Trump isn't moving fast enough on Iran. You know, we're doing the UFO thing soon. I don't know. But this is how you lose free speech. I predicted it. I'm sharing it with you now. I hope you'll stay, because we're going to continue to tell the truth. And finally, over this weekend, just looking at some of the comments about the Super Bowl and stuff, I realized there is a level of anger and ignorance combined, which is terrifying. Sprinkle in some stupidity and some cultish behavior, and I'll stand by what I said. It's going to be a rough 2026. So, did you notice that it was a U.S. representative that stepped in and said, whoa, what are you trying to say? Why are you picking on this rabbi? That's exactly what just happened. That's why they stopped it. Whenever someone stops testimony in trial, or they stop testimony in court or at a commission, they're trying to shut it down, confuse people, set the track in a different direction. That's why they interrupt. You're not supposed to interrupt testimony. Only podcasters are allowed to do that. That's a little inside joke. So listen to the rest of it. The question was simple. So if I'm anti-Zionist, which I am, does that mean I'm anti-Semite? Does that mean I hate Jews? No, of course it doesn't. But I told you over a year ago, the same people that redefined man and woman, they will be here and they will redefine what racism is, what anti-Semitism is, what anti-Americanism is. The same people that defined what a terrorist is. I told you this. I told you it would happen under conservatives, because we by nature are very supportive of the government. And that's why Donald Trump could come out and say, you know, we're going to start putting people that criticize Israel in prison, and millions of Christians would go, yeah. And I got a real problem with that. I'm not going to lie to you.
To take that point for a second.
Let me back up. I didn't want to step over that answer. I didn't know you were still, both of you, still talking.
Yeah, you did.
So.
Just to be clear, is anti-Zionism anti-Semitism?
Yes.
It is under IHRA?
Rabbi,
Sure.
You're up next.
You're not
That
sure?
definition,
So
but
what is the
I would
definition?
love to speak to that. Undoubtedly, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, and undoubtedly, And one does not have to support the specific policies of the government of Israel, but to not support the right of Israel to exist, which is what anti-Zionists do, while not taking that same stand to the 28 Muslim countries and 13 Christian countries in this world, is a double standard, is hypocrisy, and is absolutely anti-Semitism.
I think it's
Nobody interrupted him. Did you notice that? Nobody interrupted him. Nobody on the U.S. side of the commission interrupted him and said, whoa, 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 excuse me, Rabbi, don't get me wrong. That's a very cool hat. But you just compared Israel to 13 Christian nations and a bunch of Muslim nations that somehow all those nations did exactly, they were established the same way Israel was. And if we disagree with that, then we're anti-Semite. Do you see where this is going? I hope you do. Nobody has the right to come into our country and tell us how to talk about anything, let alone another country.
also important that we not make Islamophobic remarks while we're here today. I would appreciate that.
I just want to
Since
say,
this is a religious liberty hearing.
God forbid was anything like that said.
Do you see, look, my issue with Zionists is they are arrogant and pompous and dangerous. God forbid I did anything like that. Again, this is a Religious Liberty Commission. That's the title of it. It has nothing to do with a Christian's religious liberty, a Lutheran's religious liberty, a Muslim's religious liberty, a Sikh's religious liberty. Nothing. This is a commission run by Zionists that are putting the final touches on what you and I are allowed to talk about this year and in coming years. And mark my words now, on the 10th of February, 2026, soon, quoting the Bible will be considered anti-Semitic. You can giggle all you want, because I've spoken to some of you folks that think you're well read on the Bible, and you're making fools of yourselves. And I say that respectfully. Not only are you misquoting it, you haven't read enough of it to even be in this debate. But I am telling you, under President Trump, under this administration, don't be surprised if quoting the Bible is considered hate speech, because Zionists do not like all the quotes about Israel and the Jews coming out of the Bible. They've cherry-picked the quotes. You've got an entire generation. Well, I wouldn't call it the younger generation because we're wising up. I'm not part of it, but I know a lot of young people that are young, and they're wising up. But you have an entire generation, mostly baby boomers, okay, and they have embraced the doctrine that came out of World War II, pro-Zionism. And it was based on a very flimsy interpretation of a Bible that had footnotes in it, and they were taught to follow the footnotes, not the Bible. I'm talking about the Schofield Bible. Let's get back to what's taking place in our capital this week.
But if the Jewish people are the only people that you deny the right to have its own state, that is absolutely a double standard, hypocrisy, and anti-Semitism.
Well, as you know, I'm a Catholic, and Catholics do not embrace Zionism, just so you know. So are all Catholics anti-Semites, according to you?
As I said, anti-Zionism, by denying the right of the Jews to have their own state while not saying the same for any other peoples, that is a double standard, hypocrisy, and anti-Semitism.
So just to be clear, are Catholics anti-Semites?
Carrie, excuse me. I'm going to interrupt.
Oh, another interruption. Because he came out and said it. They both came out and said it. The Zionists on this commission came out and said it. I told you this is where it's going. It's going to escalate. It was never about anti-Semitism. Not with me, not with millions of other people. It was about the fact that the IDF, using our money, can blow the crap out of any country they choose because they believe they're part of the chosen army, the chosen people, and they have carte blanche, and the Goyim need to shut up. That's what it was about. It was never about practicing Jews, who many cannot stand Zionist. Practicing Jews, religious Jews, Orthodox Jews believe that Zionists destroyed Israel and made it even worse for real Jews around the world. That's what they believe. It's not my fault that not enough people are getting this information. I'll show you a couple more sound bites, and then you can ponder yourself, or you could just whatever you want to do. I mean, this is a lot to take in. Pretty words aren't always true, but true words are not always pretty.
The discussion, our committee is focused on religious liberty taken from all people, whether it be Muslims, Jews, Christians, Sikhs. We've had all those witnesses here.
Notice she said she didn't mention Islam, okay? This is where people attack me. Oh, you're Hamas, you're a sellout, you're a Jew hater. What are you, pro-Islam, blah, 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 okay? Read history for the love of God. We're about to lose our country. We're going to lose it under false pretenses, which is the worst way to lose it. At least if it was in our face and we actually saw what was happening clearly, it would be easier to understand, you know? But that's not what's happening. We're going to lose free speech. And there's going to come a time in this country where quoting the Bible, the truest book ever written, is going to be considered hate speech. And it will be labeled hate speech and put into law by Zionists. Because anything anti-Semitic will be considered hate speech. Now, you can hate on Christians all you want. You can mock Jesus. You can do parodies about Jesus on In Living Color and Saturday Night Live and Comedy Central and Netflix all day long. But the Zionists will not tolerate that because it hurts the Israeli lie that is taking place now with Gaza. And I know I just did another 30 minutes worth of damage to what any career I have left. But I'm a truth teller. I'm not a script reader, and I'm an American citizen, and I know the Constitution probably as good as any other nitwit on some cable news panel.
Here, this is not a commission on defining religions or calling out any theology, or this is not the commission for that.
Right, but we're talking about a foreign nation, so I want to be clear on what the definition of anti-Semitism is. If I don't support the political state of Israel, am I an anti-Semite? Yes or no?
They already answered, asked and answered.
According to you on the record, yes? If I don't support the political state of Israel?
I don't personally label people.
I'm like, that's a joke of the day. It's T-shirt Tuesday, and that's a joke of the day. A Zionist rabbi saying, I don't personally label people. Excuse me, sir. Yeah, I'm just a goy in the audience, just a young goy with a dream. You label everybody. Everybody that's not you gets labeled. Your Eminence.
But what I'm saying is, if somebody states if somebody says they're an anti-Zionist, they are saying about themselves that they have a double standard and hypocrisy, and they're taking anti-Semitic positions.
Okay. Carrie, do you feel like you have your questions in?
I don't agree with that because as a Catholic, I don't agree that the new modern state of Israel has any biblical prophecy meaning at all. So that's my stance, and I'm Catholic.
How do you like them apples? I told you. I said it's going to keep evolving. This Zionist supremacy that has so much impact on our government, on our tech, on our constitution, on politics, it's going to continue where if you even mention the word Israel, the algorithms are going to destroy you. Just like when you mention the word Gaza, you podcasters know, you better damn well be attacking Gaza. Because if you're saying, I really pray for the children in Gaza, well, then you're Hamas. Who runs the biggest AI outfit? Palantir. Yeah. Okay. Little more. Again, I'm trying to be nice about it, but gosh. And my audience is so nice to me and so gracious, even when they disagree with me. But there is a wave of anger spreading across the country. And then I turn on C-SPAN today because I'm a geek. And I'm watching C-SPAN. And there's a couple of rabbis telling an American citizen. And one more thing. If you say you're anti-Zionist, then this is what you really believe. And see, I told you this is where we're going. This is where we're going. It's all just being codified now. That it's being put into law. And again, some of you Christian evangelicals, close friends of mine, you can giggle all you want. But you could be out in the middle of the highway right now. You could go anywhere. You could go to the mall and say the most horrible things out in the open about Jesus, which I would be very offended about. Don't do that about Israel because you'll be arrested for hate speech. Okay? And don't burn the Israeli flag. Remember, until a year ago, you could burn the American flag, which I'm also against. But as crazy as it sounded, when I saw that American flag burning, it reminded me of the level of freedom that we have in this country, that we are that secure in our freedoms and our Constitution and our people, that millions of people basically said, look, I hate the fact that douche rocket over there is burning the American flag like he regularly does. The guy in Harrisburg, PA does it. If you don't know, you probably all have one of those at your capital. That's a capital of Pennsylvania. But he has the right to do it. And the fact that he's surrounded by hundreds of people at a particular protest and no one's shooting him in the head or taking him to prison, they're just like, pfft. But that's gone. That's gone now. And God help you if you burnt an Israeli flag. Now, ignorant people will watch that. Well, they won't get all the way through it. Some will be too angry. But you'll watch this and you'll say, Ken says, go burn the flags. Are you nuts? The only thing we have left in this country is the Constitution. That's it. There's nothing left. There's nothing left to protect us. Do you think it's the FBI? They're going to protect us? When someone kicks my door in and drags me off somewhere because of what I was saying, like they do in Britain, when you talk trash about the monarchy, or during 2021, when people were talking trash about Fauci and talking trash about the vaccine, and everybody was okay with it. I want to share something else with you. This is what we'll wrap up with. And I definitely want your thoughts and opinions on today's show. And there's another, I have a whole other stack of, pile of preparation, but I couldn't believe this was happening. I predicted it to the word. Do you guys remember me predicting it and how much hate I got for it? It was sad too, because I lost subscribers over, and it was so sad. It was disappointing. I hate losing subscribers. Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Because that's how I earn my living. But that's how it works. And who knows? Sometimes they're bots. Sometimes they're just people that, have a problem with free speech or hearing things that they disagree with. And I know there's people that, I don't like to hear I'm wrong. I don't like to hear, no one wants to hear people disagree with them. The irony about conservatism and where we are now with MAGA is most of the podcasters that I know, not necessarily personally, but that I follow or know, the true conservatives, the true Make America Great Again, the true American firsters, we have an issue with what's happening in Gaza. We have an issue with Bibi Netanyahu, who is like a vice president now in America. We have an issue with those things because of money and ethics and international law and the fact that we're losing our free speech. And that's when my antenna first went up. People who listen to me remember it. Heck, I was talking about it on radio 3 or 4 years ago, that this hate speech stuff is going to get so out of hand that you will not even be able to criticize the wrong country or the wrong leader or the wrong religion. You know how I was raised Catholic, okay? You know how we're not big fans of priests that do horrible things. Not at all, but that doesn't keep us from talking about them. Most of the Catholics that I know want those priests dead, like legitimately death penalty, sentenced and sent to trial. You can't have that discussion about, there's not a lot of other religions you can have that discussion about. So we are going to be controlled by another country, and the ethics of what you or I have been led to believe is an actual religion. And Zionism is not a religion. And it's interesting because people are constantly talking about Islam versus Muslim and Christianity versus Lutheranism or Catholicism. There's all that. But for some reason, and now it's official, you just heard it from the mouths of rabbis in the Capitol having this discussion. If you criticize Zionism, you hate Jews. If you criticize this, you're a hypocrite. If you criticize the right of the state of Israel to exist. Here we are. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. All right, let's go to an 88-year-old Holocaust survivor, and let's get his take. Let's get his take on this.
First, I became, without sort of putting necessarily an active label on it, anti-Zionist as a result of my visit to Israel to visit my family. Some members of my family, in circuitous ways through Romania, ended up.
What year was that you went to visit?
That was before the 67 war,
okay.
Quite early. And I was completely shocked at what I found there. And I think that was a critical influence on me. Because to my horror, I found that every member of my family, and a number of aunts and cousins, etc., they were all racist by then.
Towards Arabs?
Yes, as they called them, not Palestinians.
Indeed.
And that really both horrified me, and I couldn't understand how it could happen. I now understand.
Wait a minute. Are you trying to say, sir, with all due respect, because you're an 88-year-old Holocaust survivor, and I'm actually a fan of this gentleman's writings, which are very awesome. So before the 67 war, but after the 48 land grab, and after the Zionists really got deep into our country with propaganda, he returns to Israel. And what does he say? He says how racist Israel is, how racist Zionists are. And this is before 9/11, before the bombing of Lebanon, excuse me. Okay. Before the train bombing in London, before October 7th? Yes. Before Lebanon, okay. So what you're saying is that Israel just didn't all of a sudden turn on the Arab world after the horrible acts that Arabs were doing. They turned on the Arab world long ago. Long ago. And here's a Holocaust survivor explaining it. Now, if I just read his article, because this is from an article he wrote, I guess that would make me an anti-Semite, but he is actually a Jewish Holocaust survivor. So long before 1967, long before the stories and the narratives that we get from Fox News, here's the truth.
And more about the impact of drip propaganda.
Yeah.
And also the kind of completely artificial fear that was created in them, that somehow they bought into the idea that unless they forcefully keep down the Arabs, they would be driven into the sea and the existential danger, which I am convinced was a complete lie.
Yes. You go there before the 67 war, before the occupation of West Bank and Gaza. Did you ever imagine at the time that one day you, Stephen Kaposh, former young child living through the Holocaust, would be at protests against Israel, saying the world's only Jewish state is now guilty of a genocide?
People come to us.
Sorry, there's a commercial there. I'm going to let it. Give me a second. I'll let it play out. I'll let that commercial play out. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that fascinating? Sorry, phone ringing. Probably someone telling me don't talk about this anymore. It's heartbreaking. And I'm going to mention it again. I predicted it to the letter. To the letter. In fact, I'm going to try to find that episode where I said, you know, a year, 2 years from now, there's going to be rabbis in Washington, D.C., probably around a visit of Netanyahu, who's here. And he's going to tell you, all right, boys and girls, all right, boys and girls, here's how you're allowed to speak of the great Israeli state. And if you choose not to, you're effed. And you just heard it. You just heard it. Catholics, are you okay with that? Well, you know, no, are you? I did 11 years of Catholic school. I thought they did a phenomenal job of raising me and instilling ethics and character and morals into me. And I thank God every day that my parents chose to send me there and were in a position where they could send me there. And the Catholics I know, their head would be exploding now. And by the way, you Catholics, you're anti-Zionist. And if you're anti-Zionist, you're anti-Semites. And see, that isn't how it works. And the fascinating thing about this, I'm going to go check and see if that commercial's done. I want to play the rest of the Holocaust survivors' comments, and then we have to wrap up because we're running out of time. But the irony is, if you research today's Israel, the level of racism among people like Bibi Netanyahu, meaning Zionist, okay? People that think they have a right to do whatever they want. And if you don't buy into it, they have a right to destroy you any way they want. Blackballing, career rug pull out, whatever, labeling you anti-Semitic. I told you, this is a repeat of BLM and you or I getting labeled racist because we were outraged by what BLM was doing. This is a repeat of LGBTQ because you and I were getting labeled homophobic because of how radical and wacky the trans movement is. This is a repeat of it, but it's worse. And here's why. Because the Israeli lobby gives money to 96% of our Congress. That's why it's more dangerous. The United Negro College Fund doesn't. The gay pride groups don't. But the Israeli lobby and their anointed leader, which could be anybody on any day. It could be Ted Cruz. It could be any number of media owners. Or it might be Bibi, who's here today. They are untouchable when it comes to critical assessment or critical thinking. That's why it's different than those other things. What will it lead to? We're going to lose our Bill of Rights. And we already have. Part of them. I know, it's crazy. All right, can I get through this? Gosh, I hate these commercials, but that guy's got to pay for his cast too. Oh, I know how I'll do it. I'll do it like this. Hopefully you'll just hear a little bit of it in the background, okay? And then soon as good, yeah, soon as I dump out of it, which I'm going to do right now. Okay, now I'm going to go back and share. Because sharing is caring, right? So let's share it. All righty. Here's our Holocaust survivor.
At that time, at all. In fact, around that time, I wasn't particularly active in any way in politics because having come after the 1956 uprising in Budapest, where I was actively involved in the demonstrations, and actually the uprising the day before really started at my university. But I have been through so many political upheavals and changes that when I got to the UK in 56, I decided to concentrate on my profession rather than...
So how do you rediscover Palestine and activism? Is it more recently, in the last 10, 15
Well,
years?
I think the critical experience was first the false anti-Semitism campaign inside the Labour Party.
Okay, so the Jeremy Corbyn period.
That's right. When I was horrified by the complete cynicism and I think deliberate lies that surrounded that campaign, using a false accusation of anti-Semitism against the left.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all. I'll link the whole thing. You can see. It's just refreshing to hear that, because as someone who does a lot of research, I don't want to be wrong. I want to be able to show you research. I want people critically thinking. I put this country first, and that may piss people off, but that is not my goal. My goal is to obviously grow this platform and let you know there's a place you can get the truth. And as someone who makes my living on free speech and did it over 40 plus years, I'm terrified by a couple of rabbis telling politicians, no, that isn't how you talk about our country. Well, in this country, we have free speech. I don't know for how much longer. But the reason I played the Holocaust survivor, a British Hungarian, he was there in 56 for the uprising. The Allies pretty much enabled, whether it was intentional or not, that's for another day, the communization of a lot of countries. Because at the time, there was a battle between fascism and communism and this, that, whatever. So he's got some experience. So he knows propaganda when he sees it. And he just called out the propaganda. No different than the way I call it out, or any number of other clear thinking people call it out. But if that was any other religion and any other country, Fox would be outraged. It would be front page news. It would be viral. If those were two priests sitting there or two evangelical pastors and they were shutting down a Jewish woman. And the Jewish woman said, so if I were to make fun of Jesus Christ, would that mean I'm anti-Christian? And then the priest said, yes, it would. And that's against the law. So just flip it back around. And I know that's difficult for a lot of people to do, not in this audience, but try it on your friends. See how far you get. Fortunately, I have subscribers remaining, so I don't have to depend on algorithms. And we'll go to the tech side of this. There's an argument on the tech side of this, which is terrifying as well, that all these tech companies now have these panels. Yeah. That's how it works. Follow the money. Have a great day. Hopefully, I'll see you on the next one. I'll even change my T-shirt because it's T-shirt Tuesday. Please let me know what you think. You can email me directly, ken@kenmatthewsmedia.com. You can post. You can message me privately if you'd like. And please, if you can find it in your heart, spread the word about this podcast. It's $5.99 a month. That's it. That's it. I don't get money from PACs. I don't get money from the state. I don't get money from MAGA or the GOP, or I just don't. Some of my friends that do are extremely wealthy. Hats off to them. Do I ever regret it? Only if I drive by a car dealership. Sometimes I will regret it. I'm driving by the car dealership. Damn, I should have taken that money and I could have just lied my way to success. And I'm not saying everybody does that. You know the ones who are doing it. You've seen enough news in your life to know who really sold out. All right. Talk to you soon.